Survivor's ready.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be the time to do so.
The queen stays queen.
You said Russell Feathers.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to talk glamoury. We have ripe bananas all the time.
Dude, my prize isn't even $1 million. My prize was that I fell in love in this game. Love at first sight. Her name is Candace.
You officially go down as the dumbest survivor ever.
Welcome to Not Game, All Personal. Hey, we are a Survivor podcast here to talk about all things Survivor, more specifically the premiere of Season 46, new season of Survivor, which is why I feel like I'm stumbling on this intro, because I have to remind myself of how we start these things. I'm Nathan. This is Tony. Welcome back, Tony.
Nathan, that sounded natural as ever. You nailed it. Don't you worry.
Also forgot how long that theme song is. Every time we're sitting here listening to it, it feels like it goes on forever.
Yeah, I love listening to it every week. Yep.
So we are back. Would you believe this is our 7th season covering Survivor?
I guess it is. Oh my goodness.
And
look at us go.
I counted. We've done 5 seasons of Big Brother, so this is our 12th season, not including any sort of bonus thing that we have done, which we've done a couple of. So. A lot in the books, but we had a nice little break after going back-to-back Big Brother and Survivor seasons in the fall. So we are here, Survivor 46. How are you feeling going into the season? Let's start there. You ready to get back into Survivor?
Yeah, I think I missed it. I'm definitely ready to get back into it. Like I think I was during the last season. I have some friends watching through all the seasons, so I just rewatched all of Micronesia. And seen bits and pieces of some other seasons. So it gets me excited for the newer seasons. I am a little nervous because I think last season was one of the best we've seen in this new era. And so I'm expecting for it to drop a little bit and this to be not as great a season just because I feel like that's how it usually goes.
Yeah.
After some of the best seasons, it feels like we have some snoozers.
Yes, that's very true. And last season was a interesting one because I feel like for me it kind of took a bit to get going, and it might have just been like my own whatever going on that I needed to just warm up to these people, but it ended strong. And so I do think like right now it's like, okay, Survivor feels like it's in a good place. Like it feels like we've got through some of the kinks of this new era and like some of the mechanics that we were complaining about with Survivor 41 and 42. So I'm excited. I think I'm excited for Survivor, but I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know if I was lacking it, only because I also feel like there has just been so much reality TV in my life outside of Survivor that kind of goes into all of our areas of TV watching. So since we last recorded, right, we haven't talked about any of these really outside of like texting. We've had the Big Brother reindeer games. This continued new season of The Challenge that just ended last week. And then also Trader Season 2, which features a lot of Big Brother Challenge Survivor. So when Survivor kind of crept up on me, because I'm already still, like, I haven't stopped the reality TV grind, where it's like every week I have at least 2 episodes of something to watch. And so now that, like, the challenge is done, now that the Traders will be done next week, I'm like, okay, I gotta adjust fully into Survivor mode now. So I'll keep you updated on how that's going.
Yeah, I mean, I've kept up with all of those as well. The Traders is wrapping up next week. I guess I didn't realize that.
Yep, it's the
And
finale.
I just watched Traders Season 1 over the past 2 days. I watched the entire thing. And so I've been, doing a lot of reality TV stuff. It almost feels like you were saying Survivor takes a little bit to get going. I wonder if Survivor is kind of the opposite of Big Brother. Where Big Brother, the most exciting part a lot of times is the first few weeks when there's just chaos. And then Survivor, I feel like it always takes a few weeks to really get going.
Well, let me
confirm
confirm that even more, because I think the way they're designed, Survivor, we start off with these very small, isolated tribes, right? So it might be 4 or 5 episodes before we even get to know some of these characters. And then once the merge hits, then it's like, cool, everyone's together. We're Big Brother. You get that togetherness from the start. So it's like we have 16 people all together. So it's chaotic, it's messy, it's strategic, and then once it gets going, then it's this more small, isolated alliance situation. So that'd be my
Mhm.
theory of kind of how that works. I would say just in recent years, I think Survivor it's worked out better for it. Like Big Brother
Mhm.
hasn't it hasn't been great for Big Brother to have a strong opening and then fizzle out. Where
Mhm.
Survivor, I think the experience of warming up to these players and then peaking at the merge and then hopefully having a good end game is a much better formula, I think, for the fans.
Yeah, and as much as I hate seasons where it fizzles out, that makes the good season so much better. Like
Mm-hmm.
for every season where I love the like last season, every season where we get D as a winner and I absolutely love it. There's a season where we get Gabler and I absolutely hate it and it breaks my heart. And so like it's so fun because it's such a roller coaster, I think.
Yeah, yep, I completely agree. So we'll see how this season goes. Uh, it's hard to tell, it's really hard to get a read on any of these people from episode one, but we'll do our
Hmm.
best. We'll kind of break down. Not a lot of unique things happened. I think, like I said, we've kind of settled into a formula for this new era as far as like even episode one, what happens. Every season
Hmm.
there are a couple little kinks though, as far as we'll add this rule or we'll take this away. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
We had a basically the format of this episode. There were two challenges. The first one was the reward challenge. Um, the second one being the immunity challenge. The reward challenge. Now we have seen the past couple seasons them have to go through this. What is it called? Sweater brain.
Sweater savvy.
Sweater savvy. That's it. You got the idea.
Oh heck
um,
yeah.
so this season was the first time where whoever came in first basically gets the reward. Whoever comes in second gets their choice at the sweater savvy, and then the
Did they
loser.
not do that last season?
They might have. Did they? Do you think they did?
I feel like with stuff like that, they've done it in pairs the last few seasons, so I kind of assumed that they had done it already, but I could be wrong.
You could be right too. I just think that's like kind of the one thing that was like an example of what they've changed over the past few years. Um,
Hmm.
and also probably had an outcome on this episode. They also
Probably.
seem to. This one felt a lot harder than the
Hmm.
previous
Oh
ones.
yeah,
Like we weren't
I think
counting
because the last
triangles
few times
anymore.
they've always like won it super easily, so they're like, all right, let's make him really struggle.
Yeah. So they added this massive word scramble number combination thing, and then they put holes in the bucket. So those were kind of the two
Hmm.
little things that they said.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna mess this up for you. Um, yeah, and then we had the immunity challenge. I think the biggest thing is that the orange team won both of those. Came in first
Hmm.
place. So that was pretty significant. Do you want to just take it tribe by tribe and kind of talk about the dynamics of how we saw everyone play out? I think that probably makes the
Yeah,
most sense.
absolutely.
Let's start with the orange tribe then. Which,
Okay.
if you listen to us at all, it's going to take us a couple weeks if we even attempt to say the tribe names. Um, this one's Nami.
Nami, no, that was the one that they loved their tribe name.
Yeah.
They said
Uh,
it so much.
the Orange Tribe, we saw, I would say, the least amount of them. Uh,
Yep.
makes sense because, they did extremely well in both challenges. Um, but yeah, what are your overall thoughts on them? Was there anyone that kind of stood up with the dynamics or kind of the gameplay that's happening?
Well, they got Diet Parvati. They got the teacher dude. It's an interesting group of people. I think the people that stand out most pretty quickly are Soda and Tevin. They're just big
Yeah.
personalities, and especially in their confessionals. Um, I don't want to have any like firm thoughts right away because I know Carolyn I was a little unsure about and fell in love with her. Soda seems like a bit much for me. It's my first reaction to her, I think a little bit. Um I can't even remember how these if they're really if what alliances are happening or where everybody's kind of coming together with this group because we saw so little of them. They were in
Yeah.
control for so much of it.
Yeah, I think the only real firm thing we saw was Tevin and Hunter seem to have formed like some sort of duo.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
the way Hunter described it was, Tevin is someone who's a little more outgoing than him, so he could be the social one. Hunter feels like he could be more strategic and good at challenges. So that is something there. And then I think the
Hmm.
only other really strategic dynamic we saw was more with Venus and Randon, who is my nothing of a person this season. Like, just I like that was the one I'm like paying attention to all these people are, and I was like, there's someone on the Orange Tribe that we haven't seen yet. And then
Hmm.
finally, over halfway through the episode, he finally gets a confessional talking about Venus. So I'm like, okay, so I don't think this guy's gonna contribute much this season. That's just my
Yeah, and who knows? He might be a big deal, but I don't really remember him at all. I even looking at his picture, I'm just like, I don't know who you are.
No, the only interaction that he had was when Venus was looking for the idol. He was out there, noticed her, and then she kind of tried to like build a bridge there, being like, "Hey, I'm looking for the idol. Like, you should look for it too." Blah blah blah. And
Mm,
then
hmm.
he went and told Soda, "Hey, she's Parvati. Look at she's tiny, attractive female. Must be Parvati. Evil, you know." And then
So lazy.
Soda just immediately was like, "Nah, I don't like that." So
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
Randon's now off to a hot start, I'd say.
they're so quick to like just be like this person is like this person, so we have to watch out for them. It's like you know anything about this person, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's tough sometimes. I am interested because Venus does seem like she could be an interesting player. Like I think she could be a strong player. So I'm definitely
Sure.
keeping an eye on her. But giving somebody diet poverty is like a big thing to do.
Yeah, and I like the way she kind of took it. She's like, "That's a compliment." I don't know if you realize that, but like that's
Hmm.
a good thing. Uh, and I don't fully disagree with him, but I think that's mostly based on like her confessionals. Like I don't think there was
Hmm.
anything he saw that he should be making that comparison, and I agree it's just kind of like lazy like, "Hey, this person is kind of like this archetype. Perfect. Like let's, label her as such." But it sounds like it didn't really stick with Soda, so I don't know. Maybe Soda and Venus will have something in the future now that there's some trust
Yeah.
there. Who knows?
You definitely don't want people saying things like that because that puts a target on your back immediately though. And I think
Yeah.
she kind of recognized that as well. Like, oh, that's like kind of nice of you actually, but also like I hope that doesn't stick. I don't want to move
Yeah.
past that as soon as we can.
The only other person on this tribe is Liz, which
Hmm.
is also uh not really super relevant. I'm trying to even remember what her confessionals were or what she really contributed. I mean, like I know who she is. I remember seeing her in the water talking to them, but there wasn't anything like super game related that she felt involved with.
I feel like I remember something of her, but I don't know what it was. It must have been pretty forgettable. Um she's there though. That's for darn sure.
She's there.
I can confirm that.
Yeah, out of everyone on this tribe, I do kind of like Tevin quite a
Mhm.
bit, which usually someone this outgoing kind of like I'm a little hesitant to like, but there's something about him where I'm like, okay, you're outgoing, but not like in an annoying way. And like he's also pretty solid at the challenges. Like I think
Yeah.
Hunter is a lot of muscle there, but like Tevin was like right up in there and like I wouldn't have initially thought that this would be like the strong tribe, but I'm like I think there's something there. So I don't know. I think out of
Mhm.
all these people I think Tevin would be my favorite here.
Yeah, I would probably I don't know, Hunter, I feel like there's something there that I'm interested in. Tevin gives me and we just criticize them being like, "Oh, it's diet poverty." But he like the way he's outgoing feels similar to like Jam Jam, where like he's outgoing and kind of loud, but also pretty likable.
Mm-hmm.
And in the confessionals is like, no, but I'm playing the game. Like I'm ready to go. So I don't want to say that they're exactly the same, but I shades of him, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, and I think like especially in this new era, I think like a strong social game very important. Like that
Mm-hmm.
feels like sometimes that is like the determining factor for a lot of these winners. I think like
If I had to
Jam
power
Jam,
rank what
Mary
is the
Ann.
most important thing, it's that, honestly. Out of the
Yes,
3 pieces of the game, it's social game for sure.
right. So I think if you can get to the end and you got that social game, I think that's huge. So yeah, we'll see. Again, impossible to know, especially when we got so little of this tribe.
Yeah.
The other thing, sort of relevant to them, but also everyone else that we can probably talk about is Tevin is sitting now with an extra vote thanks
Mm-hmm.
to the summit. This summit format was new, correct?
Yeah.
Like the
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Yes, it was.
I'll be honest. It took me 2 minutes to process what was happening. I don't know why it was so confusing to me. Uh, so basically, there were 3 things they had to look at, like they're like cards, tiles, like
Mm-hmm.
symbols, and Maria had the symbol that made her guess which one of them had a symbol that
Yeah. So
represented
there was a
a no
skull, there was a
vote.
torch, and there was um a piece of paper, I think, or something like that. I think it was like a vote. It was supposed to symbolize
Yeah,
the
yeah,
vote.
yeah.
So she got the torch, and she had to figure out which one of them didn't have the skull.
Yes, thank you.
And
That's
if she
much
was right,
easier.
yeah, you were struggling. So I was like, I got this. Don't worry. So if she's right, then her and the person who told the truth get an extra vote. If she's wrong, and the person who lied loses their vote, and then vice versa the other way. So it
Yes.
really is. It's putting someone in a position to lie and lose trust. Like it's a weird thing that they're doing. Like I don't see a scenario where you lie and get out of there with any trust from those two, which will extend to the other tribe.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is tough. And we'll talk more about Zelensky. But I think
Yeah.
like right now like him in this situation, it was definitely fascinating to see him connect those dots of like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, is this in my best interest to lie? Because best case scenario, I get away with a lie. But I just got away with a lie and everyone knows I got away with a lie. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
tough. It is really tough. And then you have to play the game like what would have happened if he didn't get that skull and if someone else was put in that position to lie. I don't know. But I I kind of like this new twist on it. I I'm curious to see if there's people that can find a way to game it to have it be a little more strategic or to like leverage something more out of it other than the basic like I get a vote from it.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I don't know. I'm always interested to see something new to kind of ponder like this.
I think what I don't like about it is it puts one person in a position where they have to lie. Like that's the objective, is to lie. And being known as a liar can sink your entire game. So if it was adjusted somehow where somebody gets the torch or whatever, they still do that randomly. And then the other two, it's like, hey, you can choose to pick up like the one where you lie, or you can choose to pick up the one where you tell the truth. And if you can convince them that you're lying, you get something. If you're telling the truth, you don't like really like make them have to choose to try to lie to you. But forcing somebody to lie sinks their game. And we'll get to Jelinski, I think, more when we get to that tribe, of course. I think he constantly made bad decisions in this episode, but I think he constantly got put in very difficult situations. And yeah, he played it wrong for sure, I think. But
Mhm.
I don't know if he actively made the wrong decisions in any of those situations. It was just received so poorly.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know how you fix that. I really don't. Because I think like what it is missing is that aspect of, I think previously when it was like, hey, either we all do this or one person doesn't and the other two do, so then they get screwed, so the one person who like turned, I don't know, like there is like something to that where it's like you're and I think even the part that I would like to see if it could be more anonymous, and I don't think it can in this format,
Yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah.
think that's like one of the biggest aspects of like walking away, you know where everyone's cards are. Where even before you would play a game like this at the summit and not even, you wouldn't even know necessarily if you had an extra vote or lost your vote. You would go show
Until
up
you
to
get to
tribal and find
tribal.
out. Right. So the fact that like 3 people are walking away and know where the other 2 stand, it, I don't know, it leaves a little too much on the table, I think.
And I think if you did it, if you were able to add that anonymity where you didn't know if you were right until later on, like it wouldn't even, you would like it wouldn't carry so much weight. But when you come back from the summit or whatever they called it this time, when you come back from that, you tell the story of what happened. So if you go back and tell your entire tribe, this person lied to us and therefore I lost my vote, that person instantly is untrustworthy for an entire tribe. Whereas if that person has to go to tribal and figure out they lost their vote, then it's like, oh man, they must have lied to me. Well, it is what it is. That's the game. Like you dismiss it more. But when you have to tell everybody, yeah.
Yep, completely agree. Completely agree. But nevertheless, Tevin got an extra vote. Good for him.
And they're trying things, man.
And they are trying things. So kudos. Let's move to the Green Tribe. Siga?
Yes.
Where...
Siga. No, I have no
Siga.
idea.
I don't know. Maria got an extra vote from that one. So good job, Maria.
Yep.
Maria stood out to me. I feel like she had a lot to do here. It was kind of
She talks
initially...
big game, dude.
She does. It was positioned initially when they all got together that her and Tim were going to be like this parent duo,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't seem to last long.
She's like, nah.
Right. And then it turned into this girl alliance because Mariah wants to prove that she can make friends. That was kind of the gist of it. She's usually an outcast, so she wants to prove that she has a social game, so she made friends with Jem and Maria.
Who are you proving this to? That's a weird thing.
Yeah, the whole time there was oh gosh, I think it was Victoria from Survivor 40, no
38.
38. I think she tweeted out like, oh Mariah, if you just you think you're an outcast, you're gonna fit in great in this era of Survivor. It's like literally all the people cast are just like you, like there's
We're gonna talk about that at the end of the episode because I want to get your thoughts. I was gonna lead off with it, and I was like, well, let's lead off with the actual show, and then we can
that
have
tweet
our conversations
specifically.
at the end. No, just the
Oh.
casting these days. I'm
Got
very
it.
interested in talking about.
Yes. Anyways, that's Mariah's goal. Is she wants to, I don't know, make friends, all female alliance. So they pull in
They're Charlie's Angels.
Charlie, despite Ben wanting to work with Charlie. This tribe is a little wild. There's a lot.
It was just kind of all over the place. Everybody's making connections everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You don't really know who's going where.
Right. I don't know. There was something about Ben specifically that just made me laugh. Like everything he said and every interaction he had, I was like, what is this dude? Like he's like assigning everyone a position within the band, and like and then there's Charlie who's like I've only ever worked for, like, women have always been my boss, so I love this. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, there was something about Ben that was surprisingly charismatic. I remember thinking that, like, oh wow, there's something to this guy, I guess. Yeah, it's an interesting group of people for sure. Just thrown together and just figuring it out as they go.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't even know like what to expect moving forward. Uh, I will say, like, as much as we see like all female alliances fail often on this show, this one does appear to be a little more legitimate. Like, I can't remember the last time
Mhm.
I saw, at least on like a beginning 6-person tribe, where the three females were all on the same page. I think last year, like, they pretended like they were on blue, but then that didn't last at all. At least
Mhm.
until the first tribal. So like this one, at least I'm like, okay, I could see them actually voting together for the first two or so tribal councils.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think they could. And I think that's kind of Maria feels like she's ready to run it. And I feel like she's going to be in charge early and often. And I don't that might be an issue. She might run the whole game, who knows. But she seems like she's ready to play and kind of take charge. So I think they'll stick together.
My question is if she will run into the Julie problem from last season, where are the mothers the new threats of the modern survivor?
It's just always finding an excuse to say like, "Oh, they'll be a jury threat because they're a mother." I don't know if
Mm.
that's ever really factored into anybody's vote. Um, but yeah, that is something to think about, I think, because people do worry about that for some reason.
We just saw it over and over and over again. And again, like, just like, what is the modern threat? And if we are saying social gameplay, I'm like, yeah, mothers are probably pretty social, so I guess that line of
Hmm.
thinking would add up. So that's my only thing with her is that
Yeah.
moms appear to be targets now.
Now, Nathan, this tribe. So, for those of you who listened last year, and those for you of you who maybe didn't, last year in the first episode, I mentioned Dee had something. I didn't know what it was. I thought there was something there that would make her a strong game player. I was very correct, and who knows? It was probably just luck. But
Uh-huh.
we decided that, or I decided it wasn't a conversation really. I'm gonna pick someone out again this year, and the person is. It's interesting that you said Maria is similar to Julie, because Jem is the one that for some reason stood out to me, and like, oh, there's something there. Like, there's something
Interesting.
there that she's ready to go. She had a confessional that was very like, and I think they do this with a couple people to throw us off most of the time, but it was very like a winner confessional early in the game to tell you that they're ready to play. And so Jem is the
Huh.
one that I'm picking. I'm interested. I think there's something there. I think she's going to be a strong player.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I might even say that she's a gem in the rough.
Do you know how old she is? Without
31.
Yeah, I just looked at that.
I just looked at it. That's the only reason I knew. That's not something I just memorized.
I thought she was way younger. I
Yeah,
don't know
and I think
why.
there's something to that too, because you can kind of play up the like, oh, I'm dumb, like I'm not as smart as you think I am, kind of thing.
This tribe is actually the youngest person is Charlie, 25, which I guess
As it should be.
Zelensky was the youngest. Wow. There's not like a lot of younger people on this season.
No, it feels like they're more spread out in age, which is cool to see.
There's not a lot of older ones either, but like
Mm-mm.
they're all like kind of in that middle ground. Looks
Late
like
20s, early 30s ish.
yeah. Huh, that's fascinating. But yeah, Gem. I have nothing to dispute that with. I don't know if I noticed that, but I'll keep my eyes open for you. I'll report
Yeah,
back
just
after.
keep your eyes out. I've been wrong before. I think we all know that. I've been wrong many times.
Many times. That is true. That is true. Anything else on the Green Tribe here?
I don't think so. Tim seems like a really nice dude. I like him.
He
Will he be a good
seems.
Survivor player? I don't know, but he
Yeah.
seems like a nice guy.
No, he seems like a nice guy that's gonna get blindsided pretty soon. That's
Yeah.
my take. I don't know if he'll.
Bye, Maria. With the kids. Oh, you
Well,
monster.
it's interesting because now Tim's thing is like, hey, the girls are whispering, so he's on to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, I don't know if Tim's gonna have enough sway to rally the troops to be like, men versus women, and I don't know. I think if I was in Charlie's position, here's how I would look at it. Okay, I think knowing that you have your option at a 4-2 or a 3-2,
Mm-hmm.
or sorry, 3-3.
Yep.
Like, I think you go with the 3-3 initially. You stick with the
Really?
guys at least for one vote. Then the other two girls will need you, and then you're comfortably with a 3-2, unless of course they turn on you.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously a lot of factors, but that was my initial thought with Charlie. I was like, because like once you get that 4-2, and then it's like okay, easy 5-1 vote, let's go. Or
Mhm.
sorry, 4-1. Why is my math not adding up?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you want to piggyback with an all-female alliance being the only guy? Like, how long? Do you take that all the way? I don't know.
I mean, I think you're betting on a tribe swap happening before you have to get rid of a third person because he's clearly on the bottom. And then through the carnage of that and then into the merge, you assume that one or two of those girls will hopefully get picked off and you just move up the pecking order. So I think when people are super nervous about being the fourth person in an alliance this early, it's like you're fine. Very rarely do teams just get picked off. I guess they did last year and a couple times in the new era. So maybe it is more common than I give it credit for. But yeah, I think sometimes you just got to roll that dice.
Maybe as long as you're not going to that first tribal. So now that the purple tribe has established, if it's going to be anyone, it's us.
Mm-hmm.
That is fascinating. Like every season, there's at least one strong tribe.
And this
That
one, it's
almost
not
never
even the one I'd
goes.
think it would be.
That's what I'm saying. That's when I'm like, oh, Tevin and Hunter are going to be like the muscles on this. Like that's, yeah.
Even with Banu, is it Q and Jelensky? It's like those are three dudes that seem well, maybe not Jelensky, but Banu and Q feel like they're pretty muscular and like ready to go.
Let's talk about him.
And Tiffany seems like she's an athlete
Let's talk
too.
about him. Let's talk about him, Tony.
Should we get into it?
Let's talk about this
Oh.
purple tribe. This purple tribe is chaotic.
Should we just do all the Jelensky talk right off the bat?
Let's talk about Jelensky. What is his deal?
Oh. Dude, just like I said, he got put in tough situations for sure.
Mhm. Sure.
And I saw Adam Klein tweet like, even when it came to the sweat thing, there is something to not wasting your energy so that you can be better at the challenge the next day. Now they lost the challenge. We know that because we have the benefit of hindsight. But the logic is there that wasting your energy doing that for 4 hours probably isn't the wisest thing in the world. And same with going up to the summit thing and doing what he did and just being honest. Like there's logic to why that is correct, but he just could not defend it, it seemed like. Like there must have been other reasons they were out to get this guy, is where I'm at.
Maybe, but I also think even if there are logical reasons for why he did what he did, I don't think he presented those logical reasons. I don't think he argued, hey, we should save our energy for the immunity challenge. And if he did, he didn't do a good job, you know? Like his reasoning was like, oh, you said several and it was 4. That's not fair. And
It's
like,
supposed to be 7. Everybody knows several means 7.
like that was his argument on why they didn't do the challenge. You know what I mean? And so I think like
Yeah.
that was more of it. It was like even if you can argue your way into him making a correct decision, that wasn't like his logic. And I think the same thing like with the vote, like the we're
Mhm.
saying the summit might have not been fair for him. He didn't explain that. He went back to his tribe and said, "Hey, I gave them 2 votes. Wasn't that a good idea?" And they're like, "What?
Yeah.
What are you saying?" He's like, "Well, you see, now we can use that for us." They're like, "What? What are you saying?"
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely didn't defend what he did well or communicate at all the reasons why it might not have been the worst move in the world. It was the summit really felt like he was between a rock and a hard place. It's like you're gonna make your team mad because I don't think lying to your tribe is ever the move because nobody ever people don't believe the truth half the time when you go back and tell them the truth. So why are you gonna lie to him too? But like either you do the selfish move and you just okay, here's votes, guys, be my friends later, or you do the selfless move but make enemies and ruin your own game. Like I just don't see a way around it for him. And maybe
Well,
somebody like Tevin, who's a little bit more like if he had drew that card, the skull, and he's just more charismatic, he could have gotten away with it. I think his tribe was already pretty ready to be done with him, so that probably screwed him a little bit. But
yeah, I think
yeah,
that is also a bigger conversation that I've been thinking about is how open everyone seems to be in this new era of Survivor, and we've talked about it. It feels like when someone
Mhm.
finds an idol, and credit to Tiffany, because as far as I know, she hasn't shared it with anyone else, but she might. Like when you find an idol,
she shared it with what's her name? Didn't they find it together?
yeah, with
Her and
Kenzie.
Kenzie, I think.
But
Yeah,
besides that,
but yeah. Beside that, yeah, yep. Just making sure, keeping you honest,
um,
keeping you honest.
like we've seen, it just becomes a tribe idol. It's like let's use this together,
Mhm.
you know, and that's kind of how it felt with Jelinski, where he's like, hey everyone, here's where we're at right now as a tribe, like not thinking of it as an individual game in that moment. And I
Mhm.
especially noticed that at Tribal Council, with practically everyone, like almost every single person was too open at Tribal. Where I'm like, what are we doing? We're keeping nothing to the
Mhm.
chest here. Like everyone is just like Jess is straight up like, yeah, I'm not doing well. I'm a liability. It's like, why are you admitting this? And like Q, thank God Jelensky went out, but Q pretty much straight up was like, yeah, Jelensky's the worst. I'm voting him out. And then uh how do you say it? Banu?
Yeah, Banu
Banu?
is what I'd go
Banu.
with.
He confirmed it completely to Jeff, where he was like, "Yeah, he's
Mhm.
gone." Like it's just, I like I don't
And
understand why no one is trying to keep secrets anymore.
like realistically, the shot in the dark isn't an issue because he can't play it when he doesn't have a vote. Idols
That's fair.
exist, so unless Tiffany told everybody she has the idol, because it wasn't Tiffany or Kenzie that were doing that. It was the people who don't have an idol and don't know if anybody has an idol that were openly saying that. So maybe it just hasn't bit anybody in the butt recently, so they're just ready to go with it and just be honest. But yeah, I would be so like I would be so keep my cards so close to my chest when I'm in tribal. Just be as cryptic as possible. I would want
Yep.
Jeff to hate talking to me.
No, exactly. And I think like I don't know. It's just like last night it felt like we didn't get any of that like cryptic talk from the players where it's like I'm saying this but I might be hinting at this might be it felt like you knew exactly what they were talking about. You know who they were like you just knew everything.
Which is weird because you'd even think that they would edit it so that it looked like they were being cryptic, but maybe that's a point that they're trying to make is that they're not hiding things. Maybe it will screw them over later.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but like even Jelinski was straight up. He's like, "Yeah, well, it's between me and Jess or something, you know." But then okay, my favorite part was the post vote confessional that he had,
Hmm.
where he called it a massive blindside, and I was like, "What are you talking about? That what like you knew it was between the two of you. How were you blindsided? How did you not see this? Like his whole confessional was like so delusional. It's like, man, I didn't see this coming. I really thought I was like, how? How did you not see this coming?
Yeah,
No, makes no
maybe he was
sense.
doing the whole like, oh, I'm gonna play it up that it might be me just so we can fool what's her name, Jess. Could have
I
been one of those
guess,
situations,
but knowing
but
that
still.
you're the, I don't know. It's just like it blows my mind how people can play this game and still not suspect it. Like I feel like if you're on Survivor, you need to always have it an option that it could be me. You
Hmm.
always need that. It felt
Yep.
very much like Drew when he got voted out last season. Like that was his most confident tribal council. Him just like sitting there and just being like, "Wait, what? Like this was never an option." It was like, "No, it has to be an option. Like you can never ever sit there 100% confident unless you have immunity. That's just how it works."
I think this is gonna go down as one of the worst episodes for a single person we've seen. Like,
Yeah.
just so much happened with him specifically, and he stepped in crap every single time, every single opportunity. Said the wrong thing. It was taken the wrong way. Made the wrong decision. Also, he threw that hourglass and broke glass just on the beach. You want to just accidentally step in broken glass like 3 days later? You moron! What is that about? That's so unnecessary.
Yeah, no, that was the most ridiculous way to end it. Also, we don't often see an actual unanimous vote, because that
Mm-hmm.
requires the person who going home doesn't have a vote. But
Mm-hmm.
can you remember a time where the person who went home first didn't have a vote? Like,
It's had to have happened with the amount of lost votes in the last few seasons, right?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to think through, because I'm like, that's rare for someone to like get voted out having never voted before. I should have looked it up. I really should have, because I did have that thought while watching it. Because it felt sort of unique. Because what that would mean was that either episode 1 they lost their vote, and I'm like, how many people have lost their vote on episode 1? You know, actually, you're right. Probably quite a few of
So
the.
that kind of
Oh sure. I don't know. Do we count those?
no, not really.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just interesting. Like that doesn't happen. That you just never get a vote.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking through
Uh,
the past few seasons and I'm not seeing anything.
all right. Well, while you do that, I think the person I like most in this tribe, I like Tiffany. I think Tiffany stood out to me. Seems like
Mariah was 5-1. Tiffany, which one's Tiffany?
Tiffany, the one with the idol.
Right. Yeah.
Artist.
Yeah. The thing with her is she felt almost like too straightforward. Like she didn't seem like, I don't know, not that you need to be like a friendly and easy to get along with person, but I didn't get that vibe from her. And with the social game being such an important part, I could see her being a little bit too cutthroat. Is kind of where I was at with her.
See,
And maybe that's not fair. That's just my initial vibe.
I think there's something there, mostly like what I just said, with her and Kenzie being the only two that really kind of played tribal the way you're supposed to play tribal. Where
Mhm.
she's sitting there with an idol, she knows the plan, she's in the majority, but she's just playing it cool, right? She's not. It just felt like everyone else was playing with like such strong emotions, where Banu was like beating himself up over the first vote, like how difficult this is. I don't want to do this, you
Mhm.
know. So I think like there is something there. I also really like the kind of duo with her and Kenzie, which was supposed to be a four-way alliance with Jelensky and Q as well, but
Yep.
that didn't last long. But I think what I liked most about this is it felt like Kenzie was kind of the one to initiate it, but
Mhm.
I don't know if that's always the place you want to be in. Like, I would rather be in Tiffany's position where you're the first one included into that, not necessarily
Mhm.
like the face of it. I guess. I mean,
Yes. Sorry, I was still researching.
are
Zach
you
was
still
voted
looking
out
up this
5-0 because he played the shot in the dark in season
Okay,
42.
there we go. No vote, Zach.
So I also agree with whatever you said when I was
Did you want to
double
look up
checking that.
season 41 while you're at it?
Well, no, I closed it because I found an example.
All that just to prove me wrong.
No, I was doing due diligence, you know.
My point is, I like Tiffany. That's where I'm at.
I don't know. I think I want to like Tiffany, but for some reason, something just was rubbing me the wrong way.
Who else do you like on this tribe?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do like Banu. I think he's fun. He seems like a less just extremely nice person, Nasir, because I don't know, Nasir gave me the same vibe, probably because they're not both from the same country. Maybe I'm just said something offensive. I don't know. They give me similar vibes.
They're
But
both
Banu just
not
is
from
so
America,
happy to be
if
there.
that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was about to say, yeah, we're just gonna move on. But I like Banu. Q I think is too like. He gives me kind of like, oh, you have to work. I don't know, kind of meathead vibes. Not that he's not a smart person, but kind of like, oh, hard work is the most important thing and the only thing that matters. That's kind of vibe that I got from him.
Mm-hmm.
Jess is just gonna be sleep deprived and not be able to say words, so that'll be fun for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's where I'm like, out of all these people, I don't know. Like, that's where I really think like the duo of like Tiffany Kenzie is probably like the ones that's gonna last, because I think like Jess, yeah, she's gonna flail out. Like Q, I mean, same thing. Like I said, tribal council just a little too direct. I don't know. Like,
Hmm.
even just like talking over the plan, it just really felt like he wasn't budging much. Unlike Jelinski has got to go, which he got his way, so maybe there's something to that. But like, if I'm him, I'm like, you guys take a step back for next tribal, right? Like, like
Hmm.
you can't be doing that multiple tribals in a row. Um,
I
but
rewatched Tribal, and I don't think I remember Tiffany and Kenzie talking at all. I rewatched it right before we recorded. That's an interesting thing to consider. Like, yes, it seems like Tiffany's was super straightforward when she was just on the island, but maybe that was just confessionals, and that's where I kind of got that vibe. And she's able to kind of mask that when she's actually talking to the people on the tribe with her.
yeah, and there's also just some, I don't know, like something about Banu. I just don't know if he's got the. He just seems like this game is too hard for him. Like, it's not good. Like,
Yeah.
he just felt so broken having to vote. Like, I don't think he's ready. Like, what's gonna happen after you spent 20 days with someone and have to vote him out? Like, that's not gonna.
It could be an act.
I don't think it's an act. I don't. That dude.
I feel
That
like
dude
he
was messed up.
I feel like he loves the game though enough that he'll get over it after a little bit. I can see immediately because there is something to voting somebody out and then being the first person voted out. Like that's a hard thing to do,
Hmm.
just in general. And so,
I would have
yeah,
no
I could
problem
see
voting
that being
Jelinski
part of it.
out. No
No, me
issue.
either.
I would just do it.
I feel like he dug his own grave for sure.
Oh man. Any other, I don't know, dynamics in the purple tribe? I did find an interesting parallel, I guess, just with the purple and the green tribe to an extent, where it felt
Hmm.
like, so like Kenzie was kind of the initiator of like, these are the four people I want to work with, right? And then by the end of the episode, Jelinski's out. Uh, and almost similar to the green, where it's like Marie and Tim were that initial connection, like parents, and then quickly Maria kind of formed her own thing without Tim. And so I did find that
Yeah.
fascinating how it seemed to be this like trend of, hey, these are the people I initially connect with, alliance, 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 but then once they take some time and like got to know people, then they like formed their actual alliance. Um,
Hmm.
and so I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if that's just people almost rush too quickly, or like, hey, you're kind of like me, so we should connect, versus like, what is a personality that could benefit me in the long run, which I think is kind of more where they landed, where Kenzie was like, yeah, Jelinski and I aren't going to be, he's not going to be good for my game moving forward, even though we both have tattoos and look like we could get
Hmm.
along outside of this game.
I think you start out like that first day, and everybody kind of knows if you make it to day 2 or 3 and you're not part of any conversations, you're screwed. So you just kind of throw stuff at the wall and hope see what sticks, see what feels right. I'm sure that they had that conversation with every single other person on the tribe. At least I would. I would have that conversation with everybody and figure out like, oh hey, I would love to work together. Like we should do something here. Um, maybe not every, but I'd like feel out everybody. I'd give everybody an opportunity to see if that's a vibe. Yeah, you just I don't think you can hold anybody to alliances from day one.
No, no. Except for Tevin and Hunter. Maybe they'll make it all the way.
Who knows?
Anything else on this episode? Season as a whole? Talk about?
I don't think so. Like I said, started slow, wasn't like super exciting necessarily, but
I
I'm
think,
I'm excited for the rest of the season.
yeah, I think I'm trying to be more hopeful with this one, because I know last season it was very slow for me. I did not get it at all the first like 3-4 episodes. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to remind myself like, yes, these are all new people. It's normal to not connect them right away. So we're just gonna let it breathe, and hopefully it's a good season, right? That's what we always want.
That's what we always want. So, do we want to talk about the casting from the new era at all?
Sure, lay it on me. What do you got? I don't know where this is going,
Man,
so
I
go
don't know.
ahead.
I feel like I feel like I've just seen so much about the casting, and then the big
Question is like, oh, they're not casting villains anymore. And it's just kind of, I think, a reality of where we are at as a society, where like cancel culture is such a thing. And I'm not saying it in positive or negative, but that definitely impacts people's desire to be like disliked in one of these shows. Um, but yeah, I just feel like we're getting the same archetypes, and it just feels like it's always like the nerdy, like the more nerdy, the more like, I don't know, the weirdos, the kind of, I don't know, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
More so than, I don't know. It's hard even to put into words because I'm not quite sure what it is, but it does feel different, the people that we have.
Yeah, I think the way I would describe it, it feels like new archetypes, and I think we're now that we're 6 seasons in to the new era, we're starting to see those patterns. Where I think
Mm.
like before this, there were just different archetypes, I guess. Because like there's definitely some that you don't really see as much, like the ones I
Mhm.
always think of, like the Ozzy and the Joe, like that one. Like we had Jonathan a couple seasons ago, but like, is that Hunter on this season? You know what I mean? Like there aren't those people that like are this like, I don't know, alpha male that wins all the challenges necessarily.
Mhm.
But so I think like that's kind of my observation, is like now that we've seen a couple seasons of it, we are now recognizing the patterns, and it doesn't feel as new anymore. It's more like, okay, we've seen this before, where it's now we're making these comparisons like with the Jam Jam, or but then I guess we're still making the comparisons with Parvati, so I don't know what that is. I guess that's just always an archetype.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always going to be the go-to. And then if they're even somewhat a mafioso type, it's going to be like, oh, Boston Rob or Tony or
Hmm.
whatever they might pick. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting to see the casts lately. And then like even to see early seasons and see the wild characters that they would have in those early seasons. And I don't know, it seems like they're just trotting out the same archetypes every single time, instead of like every once in a while throwing in like these different variations.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
it's something I need to look into more and flesh out a little bit more.
I definitely think there's a couple factors. I do think like just social media in general is a big reason why. I think, and I feel like you notice it more on Big Brother, because like Big Brother is also just like there's no fights anymore. There's no
Hmm.
really, but I do think it's just because I think fandoms have become so toxic, and so you don't really want to be that person that goes on a show and becomes a villain anymore, because
Hmm.
that actually has poor ramifications for your real life.
Yeah.
Like if Russell Hantz were to go on TV right now, he wouldn't get another job ever again.
No. No chance. No
Which
chance.
probably isn't a great thing. I think fandoms in general need to take a look at how they're treating real people. But I don't know. I also think like there's just this poor separation from like doing this as entertainment, and this is a character that like they're purposely trying to act this way, versus like this person I'm watching on TV is a horrible person. Um
Hmm.
and so I think like CBS maybe takes some responsibility in that, and therefore does cast these more like neutral people that will not, like, they don't want the responsibility of putting someone in that position, I guess.
Hmm.
Uh which I don't know if I can blame them necessarily. Like
Yeah.
I would, like, if I'm Jeff Probst, I don't want that responsibility of like I let this person be themselves and now the whole world hates them. Like
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And it's weird because Survivor is far from its peak too. Like, but that's still such a thing that you need to be worried about. Like peak was probably like around All Stars ish, maybe Heroes versus Villains, but it's definitely far past its peak.
Yeah.
And that's still like such a major concern is if you come off across poorly, you just get so much hate for it.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I feel like every season it just feels like the same people again. And I think that's the frustrating part. Is it and I understand there's variation. You don't have a Carol in every season. You don't have a Jonathan every season. Like there are certain people who stand out from I think this formula. But it just feels like all right, here's the nerdy college kid. Here's the I don't know, the
Special ed teacher. I feel like that's one that's been around a decent amount lately. And
Mhm.
that's, I mean, maybe that's just because I saw Soda, what her job was, but.
Yeah, I also think it's the show has become more about this storytelling for like people
Mhm.
rather than hey, let's find the people that can tough it up on an island. And I do think that it has a bigger factor than I think we realized too. Because I think like it's also like the people that were cast on Survivor, there was a lot of them were like, yes, we want to like go out and hunt and fish and build shelter and all this stuff. And now
Mhm.
it feels more like, you know, character driven. And so I think and a lot of that too, I mean like it is worth noting, I guess, that like, you know, CBS has made more of an effort to like cast more diversity on all their shows. And so I think with that, they also are looking for those like unique stories, right? So it's like the Banu, you know, someone who's like
Mhm.
completely new to this country who has a unique story that we've never seen before on the show. So like they are looking for those people. And so I think like when the focus becomes so much on like, hey, tell us your story, you do lose some of that edge of like people that want to tough it up, people who want to just go out and be strategic. And I don't know, it's a tough thing to try to figure out, I guess, because I feel like there's a world where you could have both, right? Like you could have that
Mhm.
story driven, you know, like I'm not saying diversity is the reason that there's no villains anymore, but like I feel like you could there is a world where you could have both of those things and it doesn't have to, you know, compromise either.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts off that. First of all, it's become more diverse, which to be clear, I love. And like I love the fact that the past 5 winners have been from multiple different like races and cultures and like men and women. Like that's been super cool to see, absolutely. But it feels like it's become more diverse casts, but in a way it feels less diverse because every cast feels exactly the same. Because they,
It's like
I
like
don't
the
know,
personalities feel similar.
yeah, the personalities
Mhm.
feel super similar, but and like that is the interesting thing. And I would also argue like Survivor has always been extremely character driven. Like there's iconic players from every season that stand out and that's what makes them interesting and that's what makes people care. The backstory is sometimes super meaningful and can be super impactful because these people are trying to like represent certain communities and certain marginalized groups for sure, but those sad backstories I feel like aren't necessary to make it character driven. I feel like I can see their story and I can see how they've grown. And even like, yeah, looking at early seasons, there's people who are just so iconic and you see how they grow even when they play multiple times, which isn't as common. But yeah, I would argue Survivor's always been character driven and it's not necessary to have 7 or 8 different spotlights of like somebody's past and what they had to go through to be here and their growth story from Survivor. I don't know if it's necessary to have to do that to make it character driven.
No, I would agree with that, but I think that's definitely the the direction they think it has to go in, I guess, to focus more. Because I'm pretty sure. Am I wrong in that like 41 was the first season where we saw like any sort of flashback of like here's pictures from like their childhood. Like I'm pretty sure like it started there where I
I feel like
it,
it might have been rare but happened in earlier seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like why they took away themes? It's because if they take away a theme, then they can focus more on the people.
I
Like the
think that's
theme isn't
part of
necessary
it.
to drive it.
I think that's part
Interesting.
of it. Because it is fascinating. Because like when you listen to Jeff Probst, he does make a big emphasis that like 41 on is meant to be a completely new era. Like not even just like, oh, it's a
Mhm.
new era, but like, and I think we almost get it confused sometimes because we look at it, it's like, oh, it's Survivor, but it is a completely different game in ways that are almost so subtle that we don't even recognize on the surface. But like when you
Mhm.
hear them talk about it or like their vision for it or their execution, like it is a lot of these things. I just, to me, I almost wish it was more different so that we wouldn't have this confusion of like watching it wanting the old stuff. Because like if you tell me the old stuff
Mhm.
is gone, that's fine, but like let's actually move on and make it a different game or something. um which I don't know, I feel like I'm being super negative right now. I still like it, I still like the show, but it is like this
No, but
weird
I think
middle
that's a good
ground
point.
where it's
Yeah.
like there are aspects of the old game, but then there's also these new things, and because I saw some of the old aspects, I'm getting more frustrated when the new stuff is overtaking it.
Yeah, and you really can't notice until you like look at a season from now to like a season from the teens side by side, and you see how vastly different the game is. I think the challenge is a great example of that, where if you look at one of the more modern seasons
Don't even
versus
don't
like
even get me started on this newest season.
the
Gosh.
Gauntlet, like just entirely different like universes that these live
Right.
on. And so it's not as obvious as that because the bare bones of this is still exactly the same.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And so I think that's the tough part. Is like the format is here, the rules are still here, the voting, the idols are still here, but the way that people are cast and the way like even that Jeff prompts the questions at tribal, like that's what's different. And I think that's the things that
Hmm.
Jeff is like, oh, this is a new era, but I just don't think we're always making that connection when we turn it on.
Did we want a new era? That's what I'm wondering.
It was I actually did watch a little bit of an interview this week with Jeff, and I didn't completely disagree with the way that he said it, where he
Okay.
talked about like when they did season 40, they threw everything they had at it. Like, let's make this one of like just the ultimate season, right? And even he talks about the fire tokens a lot of like, it's a good thing they kind of took those away. It just didn't really land, didn't really work. But I think in his mind, he's like, where else can we go? Because like I think we forget like there were some stale series of seasons in Survivor, right? Like there were some seasons in the 20s that weren't so good, even in the
Hmm.
teens, right? I think like we pick out the highlights, but like the game needed to progress. They kept on adding things. And so he viewed it as a way of like we can only go so far with this to the point where it just gets overkill. So like we need to mix it up in a different way. And I
Yeah.
don't completely disagree with that. And I would cite Big Brother as a big example of that, where it's like, okay, are
Hmm.
we just doing this again this summer? Like, really, this is what we're gonna do again? Where it's like Survivor, at least, because like, when did the first immunity idol come out? Was it like season 11 or something?
Season 11. Yeah.
Right, like that's a lot of seasons without an idol, and now it's
Hmm.
like an integral part of the game that like we can't imagine playing without it. So it's like they did consistently involve the game. It was just at a pace that we didn't necessarily witness in person because not a lot of us were watching it like live back then. So I think like
Hmm.
the game has always evolved. It's just now in a much more direct way where
Yeah.
Jeff is kind of like we need to go a different direction because we can't just keep adding and adding and adding.
It's interesting to me that it wasn't decided to do like a back to the basics season. And I'm not saying a season without immunity idols necessarily, but like run a game just like you would have and like just basically rerun like a heroes versus villains type game, like era game, and see how that's received. Like just strip back a lot of that extra stuff. Get rid of the fire making challenge at Final Four. Like just and see. I guess it's a lot of money to risk that with. So I can understand why they were just like, nope, we're gonna go this direction and we're gonna commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, we've talked about with Big Brother, like, just there's so much going on. Just one of the best seasons ever was season 10, and there was not a single twist that entire season.
Yeah.
I don't think. And so why not try that again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
But
I agree.
that's a lot of investment for a test, a roll of the dice.
Yep. Yep. No, I completely agree. Yeah. Oh, good talk. I think we nailed it.
Yeah. I think we're the most correct we've ever been.
All that said, and I still enjoy the new era more than I dislike it, I think. Like there have been more good than bad.
I think if we stacked it up, there'd be a lot of bad.
I get so like would you compare like season to season or would you break down even the seasons? 'Cause
I
the-
think, well, when I think new era, I think the new twists. I think the new things that they've tried.
yeah.
I think if we went like seasons or even players, I think there's a lot of good. I think there's a lot of new characters and people that I love and really enjoyed watching play the game. Um, but if we went like twist for twist and like
Mhm.
way that the game has shifted, I think there's been a lot of bad. But I think they've been fine tuning it in a really cool way.
Yeah, and maybe that's a better way to put it. I think like every season has gotten a little bit better with something.
Mhm.
Cuz like
Mhm.
41 we had a lot of complaints.
Yep.
I
And I feel like they listened to those complaints, and like we had a lot of the same ones for 42 because they
Uh-huh.
filmed them back to back. But
Yeah.
even between those, we saw little tweaks that it's like, oh, they saw that that didn't work super well.
Right. So I think yes, like talking about the players, more good than bad. I think talking about even winners, I think there's more good winners than bad winners. And twists, more bad than good.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a lot to break down. But
Mhm.
it's close. It's close now that I think about it.
Yeah, but hey, I'm having fun. I'm
We're
always
still
optimistic. I'm always
we're still
optimistic,
here.
even to the very end, hoping that it's going to be good. So I'm excited for the rest of the season. I think there's some potential in this cast. Um, yeah, we'll see.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. That's a good talk. Next week we will be back talking about this all.
Heck yeah.
We will be drafting our players for the season
Yeah,
that we think are going to do well. We'll each draft 3 players, and then based on when they get voted out, we'll get points. If your players go farther, you get more points. You destroyed me last season, so congrats. Wasn't even close.
I needed that after just being your punching bag for a couple seasons.
I mean, I will brag that my pick of Katura did make it farther than all of yours, but the fact that I had 2 pre-merge boots, that was tough. That just nothing was gonna counter that. So we're hoping for better this season.
Yeah.
All right. For more episodes, notgameallpersonal.com, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube at NGAPpod at NGAPpod. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anyone listen to podcasts really. I'm Nathan. It's Tony, and we will see you next week.
12 seasons, 2 pals, 1 podcast.